Today on What It Looks Like Homemade, we are making my world famous baked ziti. That's right, it is going to be fantastic. It will be the most delicious baked ziti you have ever had. Once again, I guarantee it, I guarantee it is gonna be awesome. And it's super easy to make, so we're gonna go ahead and get started right now on What It Looks Like Homemade.
All right, listen, here we go. You don't know how to cook, I'ma teach you now. Stir-fried cheesecake, apple pie. Get your mind right, you ain't gotta ask why. I can do this all night, let me show you how. Everything tastes good when you follow me. Make a friend ask, can I get the recipe? We turn lemons into lemonade. Get your cooking skills and upgrade on what it looks like homemade. What it looks like homemade. What it looks like homemade. Homemade.
Now, the first thing we need to do to make our world famous baked ziti is to cook our ground turkey. Now, you can use ground beef if you prefer. I just always use ground turkey, so but it's up to you. Add a little olive oil into our skillet here, and then we're going to add in our ground turkey or ground beef, depending on which one you prefer. Now, this is 1.25 pounds of ground turkey we're going to add here. And since we're using meat, I always use my red spoon for meat. Kind of helps to make sure I don't cross-contaminate anything. It's a good idea to do something like that. Just help make sure you don't add any unnecessary contaminants to other food that you may prepare. And these silicone spoons are really nice because they don't damage your non-stick cookware. If you're looking for some of these, I'll put a link down in the description. I have red ones and I have black ones. Red for meat, black for everything else. And it's starting to cook there. We're going to add some seasoning to it. I usually use some Lawry seasoning salt. Sprinkle some of that on there. Some Lawry's garlic salt. It's already starting to smell really good. I don't really measure. I can just tell how much I want to put in here for this. Kind of comes with practice. Then add a little black pepper to it as well. I'm going to mix that up. It's starting to cook there. This is a really, really simple recipe. You're going to be amazed at how simple it is, but man, when it comes out, it's going to be delicious. Now, while your meat is cooking, you can go ahead and start preparing your pasta. So let's get the water boiling on that. I'm going to use the stove over here for that to get the water started. And the pasta we will use today is from Barilla or Barilla. It is the ziti pasta here. This is what we're going to use for our baked ziti. And we're going to use the whole box. So we're making a big batch of it. Just got to wait for our water to start to boil. Now, when your ground turkey or ground beef is getting a little thick, you can use one of these right here. It's a meat chopper that helps to get the meat a lot smaller. That way, it's not big chunks of meat in your baked ziti. Although some people may prefer big chunks of meat in there in the baked ziti. It's up to you. I like mine a little bit more chopped up. I don't want it extra pronounced within the baked ziti. All right, now our meat is almost done here. That only took like a few minutes to cook. Now you can see how small it looks now. See how small the meat is, not big chunks of turkey. All right, now it's time to drain our ground turkey. Now it's time to add in our pasta. We're going to cook this for about 10 minutes. We want it to be al dente so that it doesn't get overcooked when we bake it in the oven. All right, now that our ground turkey is drained, we're going to add it back into our skillet. Then we're going to add in our sauce. Now I'm using a Classico 4-cheese sauce here. So that's what we're going to add in. And this is a big size. This is 2 pounds and 12 ounces. So we're going to add this right in here. It's going to add nice flavor to your baked ziti. Now I'm using my black spoon because the meat is already cooked. No need to use a raw spoon. I don't want to use that one anymore. All right, let's get this all stirred up. And we don't really have to cook it per se because it's going to cook in the oven. I just want to use the skillet to stir it up and mix it in here pretty well. Okay, so now we have our meat is done, our sauce is done, and our noodles are done. So now what we're going to do is pour about half of the noodles into our pan here, and then we're going to pour some sauce on top with some ricotta cheese and some mozzarella, provolone, and Parmesan cheese. And then we're going to put another layer over that with the pasta, and then repeat with the sauce, provolone, mozzarella, and Parmesan cheese. And so before we pour the pasta into our pan here, we want to spread down with some cooking spray here just to help it not to stick. Now we're going to pour about half of our pasta noodles into our baking dish. And I did not rinse the noodles at all. So we don't want them to be rinsed. We want them to stay hot so that when we pour the sauce over it, it can soak up the sauce. Pour about half of there in there. That looks good. Spread it around, make a nice little base on the bottom. Now we're going to take some sauce. We're just going to start pouring it over the pasta here. Go. Nice little layer. We want to make sure we have enough of the sauce for the top layer so that we can cover all the pasta noodles. All right, that's looking fantastic. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stir this up. We're going to stir this up so the noodles and the sauce can all be mixed in together for our base layer here. There we go. Now we can spread it out, make it nice and flat. Next, we're going to dab some ricotta cheese on there. And just going to spread it throughout the dish, flatten it down so that it can spread and get some good coverage. So it should look something like this. Now we're done with that. No more ricotta cheese. It's just for the first layer only. All right, next it's time for some provolone and mozzarella cheese. And we're going to spread this over this layer here, like this. Telling you, this is going to be the best baked ziti you have ever had. You know, I like to guarantee stuff when I'm cooking. There we go. Don't put too much cheese in there because we got another layer of cheese to go on top. Then we're going to do some Parmesan cheese. Parmesan cheese adds a little bit of saltiness to the dish. Now, the second layer of noodles. I may do these by hand. They've kind of cooled down some. Should have room for all of this. A little bit more. Now, what you want to do is make sure all your noodles are laying flat. You don't want any of them sticking up, because if they stick up while it's baking, then it's going to get kind of crunchy and hard. So try to avoid that by making sure they're all laying down flat. Now we can add the rest of our sauce on the top. Do your best to cover as much of the noodles as possible. Any areas where you have some noodles that are not covered by the sauce, try to get some sauce on top of it. And that will ensure that the noodles do not become crunchy because it's been exposed to the heat inside of the oven. So you should look like this here. See, I don't have any exposed noodles. I've tried my best to make sure that I've covered every single noodle with some sauce. And that's what you want to do. Every noodle with some sauce. And so now we're going to bake it in the oven for about 30 minutes at 375 degrees. But at about 20 minutes, I'm going to take it out of the oven, and then I'm going to add that last layer of cheese on the top. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want the cheese to be like solidified. I want it to be more melted and more gooey. That's what we want. We're going to do about 10 minutes before it's done cooking, and then we'll add the cheese on top. So make sure you set a timer for 20 minutes and then another timer for 10 minutes. Now when our baked ziti comes out of the oven, to put our cheese on top of it, I'm going to use these, what they call trivets, or hot pot placeholders. These are about 7 inches in diameter, and they can hold a temperature up to 446 degrees. They're non-slip. These are perfect for when you want to put something hot on the table, but you don't want to damage your table. I'll put a link to these down in the description below, but you got to get these. You just got to get them. They come in a pack of 6 in several different colors that you can choose from. And I've had these for a couple of years. Actually, they have held up very, very well. I highly recommend them. Okay, now our 20 minutes are up. It's time to put some more cheese on top. Now, another thing I like to use are these silicone oven mitts here. I got one in red and one in black. Now I love these things. They're great. They can handle really high temperatures as well. So these are awesome. So definitely get a set of these right here. I will also put a link to these in the description down below. We're going to start first with our mozzarella and provolone cheese. I want to make sure that we cover the whole top layer of it with cheese. All right, next we'll add in our Parmesan cheese on top. We get those little corners there. Okay, now that looks really good. So now we're going to put it back in the oven for another 10, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how quickly your oven can cook the cheese and melt it. But that's what we want. This world famous baked ziti is so amazing. You will love it. Okay, now this is my favorite part. As you know, I say this on every single video, the taste test. All that stringy cheese, look at that. That stringy cheese hanging down, it's about to fall. Oh man, it's delicious. Thank you so much for watching What It Looks Like Homemade. Got another recipe coming for you soon.